Hi everybody, this is Noelle at Petitti Garden Centers, and we are going to talk about shade annuals today. We've had a video about shade annuals before, but it's a little bit older, so we're going to update a little bit because there's been a lot of new varieties that have come and really done a nice job in the shade for us. So annual plants, lots of color. We plant them for the growing season to fill out and really do a nice job, give us a lot of color in either our garden beds, landscape, or containers, and there are plenty to choose from. I always want to tell you that when you're shopping for shade plants at Petitti's, always look, excuse me, for those blue signs. So you can see my begonia sign right behind me. Taylor will show you some of the big shade banners as well, where we have a lot of shade plants to look through and explore. And we're going to start with begonias today. Now, begonias, the annual begonia family, because there actually are some perennial types, believe it or not, but the annual types are the most well-known types. This family is fantastic. And what I'm going to say, part shade to full shade condition. So let's talk about that really quickly. When you're talking about a part shade condition, that is 4 to 6 hours of sunlight, okay? So part shade usually works very, very well with your begonia family, but many of them can take full shade as well. So that's actually 4 hours or less of sunlight in that area, okay? With the begonia family, there are some that can honestly take full sun conditions as long as that they are kept moist. So since we're talking about shade annuals, let's stick to those shadier aspects, and all of these that I'm going to show you are going to be great, okay? The ones that I have right here are going to be your dragon wing begonias. I talk about dragon wings all the time. They have large, leathery leaves. They grow up and out. They have this beautiful mounding vase-shaped habit. They look really wonderful in hanging baskets and window boxes and in the ground. They do a wonderful job for us. Yes, they are some of the begonia varieties that do very, very well in sun, but again, very, very well in your shade conditions. We think they are phenomenal. The next one that I'm going to show you is called Megawatt. Megawatt is kind of like that wax begonia on steroids. It really is a big begonia. The foliage is much larger, darker leaves on this particular variety of Megawatt. You see that bright red flower as well, okay? So the Megawatts will do really nicely. In the landscape, you'll probably see Megawatts come up to probably a foot or more and just fill out and branch. And here's the thing too, with many of these begonias, they're kind of self-cleaners. They'll push off the old, bring on the new flowers. You don't have to do a lot. But I always say with begonias, make sure that you go through every once in a while and clean them up. They do like that tactile pruning and care for them. That really helps them branch out and continue to grow really, really well. As we keep on moving down the line, this variety right here I love is Iconia. Iconia comes in different colors, different varieties like Miss Malibu and all those types of ones. This one's called Del Sol. What they look like is they sort of look like a tuberous begonia with their foliage very veined, very thick, beautiful doubled flowers. But the Iconias, again, are very versatile because you can put them in a lot of different sun conditions, okay? So do be aware of that. Another thing that I wanted to mention with your shade annuals is just make sure they do like the shade. Again, just make sure that their moisture is either even or slightly dry, and that works really well with begonias. They don't like to be overly wet, and most of these shade plants do not like to be overly wet. So just keep that in mind when you're watering. Even moisture to slightly dry is actually a good thing, because sometimes in the shade, you don't need to use that much water out there, okay? So keep that in mind. As we move through the Iconias and you know, again, lots of beautiful colors, the yellows, the pinks, the light pinks, really, really pretty. And then I'll talk about probably the most shade tolerant begonia that is flowering, okay, is going to be the Reiger begonia, okay? If you've ever heard of Reigers before, these are a great houseplant begonia. If you have a sunny spot indoors, you can grow them indoors, no problem whatsoever. And again, for outdoors, that's going to be a shady condition for you. Inside the home, maybe an eastern exposure, western exposure, southern exposure will keep them blooming for you, but they do just an excellent job outside in those shady aspects. And you've got a rainbow of colors if you look down all the way down the table. I've always teased that, you know, Reiger begonias are really missing like a deep purple or a blue. That's what they're missing. But other than that, there are many, many shades of yellows, pinks, reds, and so on. So you can't go wrong with the begonia family. So I wanted to show you, I was talking about all of the flowering begonias that are available out there, but there are other types of begonias that have more of a foliage accent, really, really interesting texture, color, shape as far as that's concerned. And this is one of the best ones out there. This one's called Griffin. So this Griffin begonia is more like what we call a Rex begonia. We have a lot of colorful Rex begonias or foliage begonias. And again, they do really, really nicely in those shade areas. Griffin can take a little bit more sun than most, but I'm going to tell you, keep it in the shade and this plant will really grow out very, very nicely, branch and fill out. I've had Griffins that would fill out to about 18, 20 inches tall and 20 inches wide for one single plant. So this one really fills a container, can fill a garden bed kind of mid-border. Looks really, really beautiful. How about Impatiens? Impatiens are classic for your shade garden. And whether it's the small single impatient, double impatient, or New Guinea impatient with the large flower, they all do marvelously. Now, here's the thing, impatiens, they definitely do like their water. So I was talking about begonias earlier, even moisture to slightly dry. Impatiens, even moisture is a really good place to be. Slightly dry is fine, but they do like that even moisture. So just keep that in mind. You've got all different colors with the impatiens. Sometimes you have different color series that you particularly, you know, go towards seashell pinks and purples and all those types of things. The double impatiens are definitely more of a novelty with definitely double, if not triple, the petals that you find on a single impatient flower. So those are very fun too. But the New Guinea impatiens, wow, some really, really beautiful colors throughout the mixtures here. And when you're talking about New Guineas, we grow different varieties of New Guineas, of course, and you can use any of the New Guineas that you see in the shade section, plus as you go through, and we'll show you the sun patients as well. So sun patients are a New Guinea impatient. They are named as sun patients because they are sun tolerant. But at the base of that plant, it has all of the impatiens, New Guinea impatiens genetics. So they really do nicely in the part shade and shade conditions too, okay? So keep that in mind. The impatiens family is very large, lots of colors to look for, and will do really nicely in the shade. And what makes a perfect complement in the shade with your begonias or your impatiens, New Guinea or regular impatiens? Coleus. And so there are so many wonderful varieties of Coleus available out there. Just watch your tags. There are a few varieties that really would prefer to stay in the sun, or sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. So they'd really prefer to stay in the shade. And I'm going to tell you the one variety that we grow is called Kong Coleus. It's really more of a shade type foliage Coleus where they get very, very large. But they are really more of that part shade to shade type Coleus. The rest of the varieties that we grow are what we call sun Coleus. So sun Coleus, again, it has been bred to grow in the shade. It does very, very well in the shade, okay? But it can tolerate sun conditions as well. So again, just because it has sun in the name don't worry about it. It's still gonna do really nicely in the shade for you. Part shade, no problem as well. And there are so many different types, uprights, there's trailing Coleus available, all different colors. And we always love, especially the newer varieties of Coleus. They give you so much color again and texture. Like I was talking about the Griffin begonia, that works really well in shade gardens when sometimes things aren't flowering as much, or maybe, you know, have stalled a little bit over the summer, which can happen. You'll find that the Coleus is always going to look awesome. Fuchsia annuals. So fuchsia, we love these beautiful bell flowers. The hummingbirds love them, and they're so classic for the shade garden. And fuchsia, again, most of them will do very nicely in, again, part shade, 4 to 6 hours, or full shade, okay? What we really like about them is you get so much delicate but beautiful color, and you might find the trailing fuchsia, or you might find more of an upright, sort of bushy fuchsia. So there are different varieties out there that are available. All will do very, very well. I think better in containers, so you can make sure that, you know, the flowers are coming on, and they're, when they do drop, of course, easy cleanup as far as pushing off the old and bringing on the new. So I really like that. But there's another variety that I do really like too, and this one is called Gartenmeister fuchsia. And the flowers haven't quite opened on this one yet. They are really, really heavily budded, but they are a bright kind of almost electric orangey color to them. And they have this beautiful, very dark foliage with the dark purple veins. Meister is just a fantastic fuchsia. Upright habit, as you can tell, really, really wonderful in the shade. It can take a little bit of sun too. So again, lots of these shade annuals are really starting to come through. Obviously do very, very well in the shade conditions, but are starting to be bred so they have a little bit more of that sun tolerance, heat tolerance, that type of thing too. So the fuchsia will do really well for you. So we are here by more types of foliage plants, tropical foliage plants, upright thrillers, spikes, accents, all those types of things that'll work in the shade. So we're going to talk about that really quick. But right above me, of course, are the ferns. These are Boston ferns. Our variety that we grow is usually Nevada, but it will change from year to year just depending. And they are absolutely gorgeous, really, really full and beautiful. And so you're going to find that any of your ferns, whichever you prefer to grow, they'll all do very, very well in the shade. That's where they belong. They are just a wonderful plant, very easy to grow in those shadier aspects, or if they have an overhang. So quite often you'll see them hanging on porches. That overhang is providing shade for them, and that's really what they need. So do be aware of that. Turn them, of course, make sure that you're, you know, turning those ferns ever so often. And it really goes for any of the shade hanging baskets. Make sure you're turning them so that all sides of that basket can get some sunlight, so they can grow evenly and continue to produce very well for you, okay? We have Boston ferns, we have chenille plants, which are very unique. We have Streptocarpella, that is also a unique shade plant. But again, these types of plants would be more like a house plant that you could bring in and grow inside, indoors, no problem, in a bright area. But again, perfect for outdoor hanging in that shady area as well. As we look at a lot of different kind of tropical foliage, and you can see from Taylor's camera, all the different kind of textures, colors, spikiness, all those types of things. So we're going to talk about that too. I wanted to show you this flowering plant. This is called Terenia. Terenia is also known as wishbone flower, and Terenia is obviously very prostrate growing, excuse me, and will trail over. And so it makes a really nice spiller or accent plant with a lot of the uprights like begonias, New Guinea impatiens, all those that we discussed. So this is a nice sort of spiller to combine with them. Along with, again, tropicals, look at the polka dot plants. So this can be a beautiful filler plant. They come in pink, white, and red typically, but your polka dot plant or hypoestes is really, really great at filling in those shady spots and containers and window boxes and things. And they tuck in and they look really nice. And they could also be kind of an alternative to Coleus and will do really nicely for you. I'm going to put the Terenia down. Right next to us here is a curly rush. Curly rush and also a straight rush, they are just basically perennial grasses, believe it or not, but they will grow in sun to full shade. So again, you can have something more of like a thriller in a shade container that sticks up, and then you can plant it with all of your other shade plants. As we keep going, you'll see a lot of foliage plants that do well in the shade. This is Alternanthera. It's called plum dandy. It's a very popular one. This plant sort of fills and kind of grows up and out as it continues to grow. And I'm going to tell you, very, very versatile again, because you can grow it in the shade, have that beautiful rich purple color, and then also it can plant in the sun too. So works really, really nicely. More tropical plants, as I have the ferns going through, running their fingers through my hair, their fronds through their hair. This is Pilea. Pilea is a very common houseplant family, if you will. This one is called red stem. Red stem Pilea, you can see the tiny little silvery green leaves and then the red stems right next to it. This is a very cool tropical houseplant that works really nicely. We use it as shady spilling accents with those shade plants. So in combination, Pilea works wonderfully. I wanted to get to one of my favorite shade plants. This is called Purple Heart. Purple Heart is part of the Tradescantia family or inch plant. We also know it as inch plant. And Purple Heart has this really thick, beautiful leaves. They grow out and kind of, same thing with the plum dandy, sort of grows out in branches, really fills in the spaces in between other plants, and is such a wonderful plant to grow. Again, you can bring this inside and grow it as a house plant if you prefer, or even bring it in over the winter. It'll do really nicely. But this plant, if you've never grown it before, in combination with your other shade flowering plants, my gosh, it is absolutely gorgeous, and again can tolerate more sun than you would think. So I know I'm talking about shade annuals today, and I hope I'm giving you a lot of options, but again, try them in different spots, different sun locations, and you might be really surprised how well that they do in all different types of aspects. Okay, and of course the spike. So when you look at a spike in a container garden and things, they're dracaenas, or dragon trees is a good common name for them. But dracaenas are excellent as far as giving you that thriller, that centerpiece in different containers. And then of course there's so many different colors. So again, think about all of that tropical foliage that you can use in shady spots outdoors. Things like English ivies. There's all different types of English ivies that you can use as kind of a spiller in containers and things that work very, very well outside. Vinca vines, of course, that's classic. So you have your green spike and your, New Guinea impatiens or what have you, and Vinca vine trailing out. Those work very, very nicely. Again, more like a foliage accent or spiller for them. So dracaenas and what else, Taylor? My gosh, there's so many different tropicals that you can use outdoor in the shade. If you want to bring your philodendron outside, if you want to bring your monstera outside, you can use those as shady accents, no problem whatsoever. And then just don't forget them. About mid-October, we start talking about bringing those plants back in for the winter. One of our favorite families for shade gardens is going to be the caladium, okay? And we've talked about all those tropical houseplants and flowering annuals and everything for the shade, but this is a great bulb plant. So it really comes from a bulb. It is a tender bulb in our area in Northeast Ohio, but the caladiums do wonderfully in the shade, and they're just such a pretty, usually thriller as we have right here. So a beautiful thriller plant, sort of that upright, beautiful accent, and then underplanted with impatiens or what have you, really works out very, very nicely. So look for your caladium. Close relative would be like the alocasia or the elephant ear. So again, those plants really lend themselves to shade gardening, annual shade gardening, do really, really nicely. So lots to choose from, folks. I really think, you know, if you broaden your horizons beyond things like begonias, impatiens, coleus, you'll find that there are many, many different types of thriller, filler, spiller that you can grow in containers, in garden beds, where you have 4 to 6 hours, which would be part shade, or 4 hours or less for that full shade condition. And you will be so happy with all of the color, texture, you know, foliage, different foliage shapes and sizes. You'll have a beautiful shade garden.